Hate to break it to you kids, but Santa Claus isn't real. And unfortunately, neither is Jared Vanderbilt. So with recent news that Vando is dealing with a knee setback in his recovery and is now targeting a mid to late January 2025 return, the Lakers simply need to move forward with this season under the assumption that Jared Vanderbilt isn't going to be coming back at all. And even if he does return, there is no way we can realistically expect him to be even near 100% the whole rest of the year. So with that said, in today's video, we are going to look at the best Vanderbilt-like replacements on the trade market. Now, obviously, there is no one-for-one Vando replacement. He is a 6'9" all-defense type of player when healthy. When I say Vando replacement, I'm talking about trying to get a legit versatile wing defender with size who can guard both forwards but also handle containing some guards as well in point-of-attack scenarios. So today I have a list of 6 potential quote-unquote Vanderbilt replacements that I think the Lakers could look at during this year's trade deadline. For the purposes of streamlining this process, I'm going to leave out obvious names like Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and Bruce Brown because they have been oft-talked about players. If those guys were made available and if they didn't cost too much for the Lakers to acquire, then yes, they would be at the top of this list, somewhere at the top. But if you're looking for a fresher, more dark horseier / hipster list, I've got it for you right here. So let's get started. Given in no particular order, let's start with number 1. Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks' DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter is 26 years old. He is a 6'8" forward with a 7'2" wingspan. He's making $21 million this year, $23 million next year, and then $24 million in 2026-27. Technically, the Lakers drafted DeAndre Hunter back in 2019 with the pick that was traded in the Anthony Davis package, and then he was sent from New Orleans to the Atlanta Hawks. So DeAndre Hunter has really good length and strength. He has a very sturdy frame and body. Now, he doesn't rack up the defensive stats, but he is a really good fundamental positional defender who moves his feet well and really does a good job of standing his ground at all times. And on the offensive end, DeAndre Hunter can also score as well. He is a career 15 points per game scorer who shoots 36% from 3, hitting 1.6 threes a game. And Lakers fans know full well the type of versatile skill set on both ends that DeAndre Hunter provides since he dropped 26 points on them in their tough overtime loss to the Hawks earlier this month. Now, he's not the most exciting or explosive player, but he may be the most well-rounded meat and potatoes 3-and-D wing that you can find on the market who has legitimate size and can also be very competent offensively as well. So think of him as the more defensive-minded, higher defensive IQ version of Rui Hachimura. So there is DeAndre Hunter. Let's move on to number 2. Let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers' Toumani Camara. Toumani Camara is 24 years old. He is a 6'7" wing with a 7-foot wingspan. He's making $1.8 million this year and around $2 million the next 2 years until the 2026-27 season. Now, this one's a little bit of a pie-in-the-sky prospect because Camara is still very young, and the Blazers seem pretty invested in making him a part of their core moving forward. Having said that, the Trailblazers are still very stocked up on young forwards, including guys like Chris Murray and Jabari Walker, who they personally drafted, and those 2 players aren't even getting any run right now. So maybe for the right price, Toumani can be had, if it's not for Toumani assets. As of the time of this recording, Camara is averaging 1.5 steals, 0.4 blocks, and shooting 39% from 3, hitting 1.6 threes a game. That is the definition of a 3-and-D player. And Toumani Camara is one of the best wing defenders on the rise in the NBA today. According to the B-Ball Index, he has been in the top 10 of perimeter isolation defense all season, and there's no reason to think he's falling off of that list anytime soon. Camara is lanky, he's long, he really knows how to move his feet and shadow ball handlers very well. He's got a very fluid and agile way of moving on the defensive end that's a little reminiscent to Cam Reddish, but I think he's even more disruptive than Cam Reddish. He's also pretty strong as well and has really good defensive fundamentals. He's kind of a good mix of Max Christie's fundamental grounded defensive game and Cam Reddish's blow-up pick-six style of gambling defense. But the one thing Kamara clears Cam Reddish in is his overall athleticism and explosiveness, because he is just frankly a better athlete than Cam Reddish. He's also a pretty good rebounder, averaging around 5 rebounds a game. Surprisingly, he's also averaging 2 assists a game, which is pretty solid for a non-ball handler, so maybe there's some playmaking chops in there as well. And as I mentioned at the top, Kamara can knock down the 3 ball at a pretty reliable, albeit low volume rate. In some ways, he kind of reminds me of the Suns rookie Ryan Dunn. And if you're looking for an aspirational NBA comp for the future, I think Toumani could be the next Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, again, as I mentioned at the top, he's probably unfortunately not very gettable, but if I'm the Lakers, I'm still going to inquire and see what it would take to get Toumani. And while we're on the topic of the Blazers, I just really wanted to shout out Kamara's teammate Matisse Thybulle, because man, if Thybulle was actually healthy this year, he would probably be a more realistic option for the Lakers to trade for. Unfortunately, Thybulle has been dealing with knee and ankle issues all year and also won't be back until January if he's back at all. But yeah, all that to say, Toumani Camara would be one of my dream gets with regards to the Lakers trying to find a 3-and-D wing on the trade market. All right, moving on to my number 3 option. Let's talk about a name that I've brought up in prior videos, and let's talk about the Houston Rockets' Jae'Sean Tate. Jae'Sean Tate is 29 years old. He is a 6'4" guard/wing with a 6'8" wingspan who also weighs a hefty 230 pounds. He is currently on an expiring $7.5 million contract. As you all know, and as I've described in the past, Jae'Sean Tate has a bully ball frame. Even though he's only 6'4", he can play the 2, he can play the 3, he can play the 4, and sometimes even play small ball 5 because he is so strong and physical. In my eyes, Jae'Sean Tate is like a poor man's Draymond Green who can do a little bit of everything on both ends of the floor. Jae'Sean Tate, stats-wise and eye test-wise, is an absolute dog on the defensive end of the floor. He really knows how to leverage his strength and physicality and combine it with his surprising speed and mobility to really keep offensive players off kilter. He's got a really good low center of gravity, so if guards or wings try to go through him, he is like a complete brick wall that'll stop them right in their tracks. But at the same time, he's also still super scrappy and handsy. He'll strip the ball away from you if you're not careful. And under normal circumstances, I'd probably say that he's a very realistic trade target to get because he is on an expiring $7.5 million contract and the Houston Rockets aren't even playing him. But the Rockets are also in the Western Conference. They are a competitor to the Lakers, and I just don't know if the Lakers have anything the Rockets would actually want. So in that scenario, would they actually want to trade any asset or valuable player like Jae'Sean Tate to the Lakers, a team that they are viably competing against to make the Western Conference playoffs? So yeah, maybe file Jae'Sean Tate in the unrealistic pipe dream scenario list as well. Although if they want Max Christie, I would 100% make that swap. Alright, before we get to the last 3 names on my list, I really just quickly wanted to remind you guys to please do me the huge favor of liking this video, commenting down below, and most importantly, please hit subscribe on this channel. I would very greatly appreciate it. Also, it's the holidays, and if you're looking to check out some cool Lakers apparel, check out our Lakers Legacy Spring Store where you can get sweaters, hoodies, and ooh, look at this cool basketball sticker I designed that you can get at the Lakers Legacy Spring Store. Let me do it how vloggers do it. So yeah, you can get this sticker, you can get mugs, you can get hoodies, sweatshirts, etc. at the Lakers Legacy Spring Store. Check it out in the link below. Alright, number 4. Let's start to get a little weird and real hipster. And let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets' Ziaire Williams. So Ziaire Williams is 23 years old. He is 6'9" with a 6'10" wingspan, really good length all around. He is on an expiring $6 million contract. And to me, he's just really intriguing moldable clay. Ziaire Williams has very good mobility and agility, but overall, you just really like his physical tools and length. This year with the Brooklyn Nets, he's really taken on the job of defending the opposing team's best primary initiator and hounding them full length of the court. Now, Ziaire Williams is not strong or imposing, but sort of like Cam Reddish, he does slide his feet very well and is pretty slithery on defense as well. He knows how to cut off opponents' driving lanes and utilize his length to disrupt shots. Now, I wouldn't say he's an established elite defender just yet, but I do think he's starting to grow into his role as a legitimate solid 3-and-D sort of player. And I think under the right tutelage, I think he could be the next Nickeil Alexander-Walker type of defender, because he's active and he's got the competitive fire and want. Combine that with his physical tools, and I think there's something here with Ziaire Williams if you can get in on him on the ground level. All right, number 5, let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers' KJ Martin. KJ Martin is 23 years old. He is 6'6" with a 6'8" wingspan. He is currently on a $7.9 million expiring contract this year, non-guaranteed $8 million contract next year, so he's essentially an expiring contract. So KJ Martin is a super bouncy, explosive athlete. If you remember in that Philadelphia 76ers game at Crypto earlier this year, he had that insane block on Dalton Knecht when Knecht tried to go up for a two-handed poster jam at the rim, and KJ Martin, like his father before him, came right up to the rim, blocked him at his peak, and told him to go home, take his ball, and cry in bed. Anyways, KJ Martin is a really fun above-the-rim athlete with high motor. He just really flies up and down the court. He's a really good finisher at the rim for very obvious reasons. He is a legitimate lob threat and is also a very good off-ball cutter. You can find him in the dunker spot cutting for easy jams. He's also a pretty good rebounder for a guard of his size and has averaged around 5 rebounds a game when he was getting consistent time with the Houston Rockets. And at the end of the day, I just really like KJ Martin's overall motor and athleticism. And I think with the Lakers, he could be our version of Josh Hart in terms of being a strong, grimy workhorse guard/wing who crashes the glass and goes after 50-50 balls. And this season, KJ Martin has rated pretty highly as a wing stopper in defensive LeBron. He actually switches pretty well on defense and always plays very hard and competitive on that end of the floor. And then in transition, if he's able to turn you over, he is an absolute blur up and down the court. And I think he can really help inject the Lakers with that dynamic athleticism at the guard spot. And yeah, he'll also just yam it over people's heads and get you that momentum shifting highlight reel poster jam. All right, for my last player on this list, number 6, let's go back to the Jurassic well of a player that I've mentioned several times in the past and talk about the Toronto Raptors' Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher is 31 years old. He is a 6'9" power forward/center with a long 7'4" wingspan, who's also a pretty frail 205, 210-ish pounds. He is currently on an expiring $10.8 million contract this year. Now, Chris Boucher is not the rabid point of attack perimeter defender that Jared Vanderbilt is, and he's also not traditionally a 3-and-D wing, but because he's so lanky and because he's got pretty good mobility, I think he can kind of approximate some of those defensive qualities that Jared Vanderbilt has and still be a good switchy defender who can guard multiple positions in a team defense scheme. And actually, the one thing that Boucher actually clears Jared Vanderbilt in defensively is he's a better rim protector and shot blocker. Chris Boucher has actually had seasons before where he averaged nearly 2 blocks a game. Now, not only does Chris Boucher have these long pterodactyl arms, but he's also pretty explosive and athletic as well, and he knows how to use these two qualities to sky for really nice contests at the rim for weak side blocks, but he also does a good job contesting out to jump shooters as well. And while he's not close to being the same sort of playmaker that Jared Vanderbilt is, Chris Boucher is actually the more offensively versatile scorer than Jared Vanderbilt because he can legitimately space the floor from three-point land. He can also put the ball on the floor and take it all the way to the rack. He can also put the ball on the floor to create some shots for himself in the mid-range as well. I've actually seen him hit some really nice turnaround fadeaway pull-up jump shots from time to time. So yeah, while Chris Boucher has sort of been played as a power forward/center for much of his career, on the Lakers, I'd actually try to size him down a bit and have him try and play the small forward/power forward position and see if the Lakers can't use his lanky frame and his physical tools to guard the perimeter, and rack up the steals, rack up the blocks, and muck up passing lanes. If the Lakers have tried Rui Hachimura at the 3, there's no reason they can't try Chris Boucher at the 3. Because at the end of the day, while Chris Boucher doesn't have the same defensive upside that Jared Vanderbilt has, I think he may actually have the more overall higher upside than Jared Vanderbilt because of his versatility on both ends of the floor. And lastly, when it comes to constructing a trade with the Toronto Raptors, Chris Boucher is probably the most realistic gettable target for the Lakers out of anyone on this list because the Raptors are in limbo right now. They are in tanking mode with Emmanuel Quickley having been injured for much of this season, and Chris Boucher again is on an expiring contract. So the Raptors just need to get anything they can get out of him. All right, so that does it for my main list of 6 potential Jared Vanderbilt replacements who haven't been too oft talked about by people in Lakers Nation. Now, for some extra credit, if we want to talk true pie-in-the-sky targets, I actually think that the best player in the league right now who does an even better job than Jared Vanderbilt defensively, that player would be the Orlando Magic's Jonathan Isaac. And yeah, the Prime Minister of Defense. He might be one of the most versatile defenders in the NBA who only plays 15 minutes a game. Jonathan Isaac is strong, he's long, but he's also super agile and mobile as well. Jonathan Isaac is the prototype when it comes to wing defense. He is legitimately so scary and so imposing to go up against because of his combination of strength, length, and speed. But yeah, unfortunately, he seems squarely entrenched in the Orlando Magic's plans for the future. But should that ever change, and should Jonathan Isaac continue to prove that he can consistently stay healthy, I think the Lakers should definitely monitor the situation and check back in here and there. All right, but back to my main list of 6 Jared Vanderbilt replacements. How would I go about ranking these 6 players? I'll give you my top 3. Number 3, let's go with Jurassic Park Chris Boucher, just because I think he has the most similar sort of lanky frame as Jared Vanderbilt's in that 6'9", 7-foot plus wingspan body. And again, I also think he's probably the most realistic get that the Lakers can trade for. Number 2, I'd probably go with Jae'Sean Tate because I think even though he's only 6'4", he is the best example of a high motor defensive ball of energy that I think could really help uplift the Lakers' entire defensive identity. And I also think he's one of the best point of attack defenders on this list as well. Now, number 1, I probably would have said Toumani Camara here, but since I don't think he's very realistic and I think the Portland Trailblazers are pretty long for Camara, instead I'll go with DeAndre Hunter. Now, again, I think DeAndre Hunter is a little boring and a little vanilla as a 3-and-D player. At the same time, I also think he's probably the most well-rounded out of all the prospects that I've listed today. And also, it would be pretty fun for the Lakers to take things full circle here by finally letting DeAndre Hunter wear that Lakers jersey that he never got to wear on draft night. All right, so that'll do it for this video. What did you guys think of my list of 6 potential Jared Vanderbilt replacements on the trade market? Did I miss anyone? If I did, let me know in the comments down below, and please remember to like this video, and most importantly, please click subscribe on this channel. It would help me out tremendously. All right, with that said, this has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and I will catch you guys next time. Happy holidays. Peace.